So good afternoon, everybody. It's really good to see all of you here. See a lot of new friends and some older friends who have been with us since the beginning of this journey. Back in 2012, a group of 14 parish presidents came together to go and defend their constituents and their homes from the unintended consequences of bigger waters, which was going to raise premiums so much that it was going to throw people out of their homes. And we made the argument that that was morally unjust and economically unwise. This group of 14 parish presidents went to D.C., pled their case, and that group eventually grew into the Coalition for Sustainable Flood Insurance, which grew to be about 250 organizations over 35 states across the country. And that effort resulted in the Homeowners Flood Insurance Affordability Act of 2014 being passed, which saved South Louisiana and really saved the nation. Well, here we are, 10 years later, none the worse for the wear. A few things have happened between now and then, but we're back, unfortunately, in a similar situation due to what's called Risk Rating 2.0. In theory, Risk Rating 2.0 coming up from FEMA was going to be a good thing because it was going to provide greater detail, a more holistic measure, and overall better information for our homeowners and for the country. Unfortunately, there are two problems that are coming out of Risk Rating 2.0 primarily. One is transparency. Despite repeated requests to FEMA, we don't actually know what's in the model, what's in the algorithm. And so we're unable to judge whether it's being done correctly and what we can do to actually mitigate it and bring our costs down. The second issue is affordability. Just like under bigger waters, we are seeing people who've done nothing wrong, who have maintained their insurance, paid their taxes, built where they were supposed to build, sometimes even in preferred zones, going from a few $100s a year to $3,000–$4,000 a year, in some cases over $10,000 a year. And that's not a policy that's going to make sense for homeowners. It's not a policy that's going to make sense for America. So we'll hear from some of our parish presidents today, and then Commissioner Jim Donilon. The request that we have is a threefold request. The first is that we are supporting legislation that was introduced yesterday by our two senators, Senator Cassidy and Senator Kennedy, as well as Senators Wicker, Rubio, and Hyde-Smith. This is the Homeowners Flood Insurance Transparency and Protection Act, which would mandate a delay in implementation in Risk Rating 2.0 until sufficient feedback and economic impact and other testing was put in place that we don't understand has been put in place yet. The second is appropriate means-tested affordability measures. If, in fact, this program is meant to be equity in action, which is what's in its name, then it does not make sense that our people who are least able to afford an increase in their flood premium would be hit by increases of hundreds or even thousands of dollars, causing them to have to drop their insurance or, worse yet, be thrown out of their home. So affordability is very important. And the final one is transparency. Between the federal government and the citizens of our parishes who have taxed themselves, we have put tens of billions of dollars into successful flood mitigation measures since Hurricane Katrina. We have to know the algorithm, know what's in Risk Rating 2.0 to know that those mitigation measures are being appropriately accounted for, and that those federal and local dollars are achieving the cost savings that they were invested in their original purpose. And so with that, it's my pleasure to introduce our host parish president, President Cynthia Lee Sheng from Jefferson Parish. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael, and thank you for hosting this event, such a productive meeting. I'm happy and proud to stand here with our fellow parish presidents throughout the region for something that is very critical for our citizens and for our homeowners throughout all of our parishes. People don't realize what's about to happen to them, and that is the message here today, that everybody who holds an insurance premium, flood insurance premium, everybody who's in the market for a new house has to understand what's coming down the road for us, and that is why you see such a strong coalition speaking out about it. insurance by the general term, and I hate to try to define insurance with Jim Donilon in the room, but we learned in school, whatever, insurance is pooling your risk together. We're all paying a small amount to protect a larger value, and that sharing of the risk overall will help you in your time of need. What this seems to be doing from the affordability issue that Michael's talking about, it's making people who want to protect their homes, want to work hard, enjoy the American dream, but simply are not going to be able to because the price is just so outstanding, so extreme. And they're going to be giving up their policy just purely from a financial perspective. They're going to be going against their own financial interest, but because they can't afford it. And that is particularly bothersome, especially in Jefferson Parish, where in Jefferson Parish we represent about 9% of the state. We hold 20% of the policies in Louisiana. So it's critical to the parish that we're in here, but it's critical to all of us. So this, we're asking for a delay. I'm kind of a public policy, have that background, we all do. We all roll out public programs. I just have to be honest, this just doesn't seem ready. Big stakeholder groups, bankers, insurance people, home builders, don't have the answers that they need. Like Michael said, it's the transparency issue. That's not how you roll out a program. That's not how you roll out a national program, and it just does not seem ready to be rolled out. So we are asking for the delay of that. But I stand here with our fellow parish presidents. Thank you all for all of your work. We have been through a lot in the past 2 years together. We're very strong, we're very well informed, and I'm proud to stand with you all. So please make sure everybody understands, ask your agent what's about to happen to you. They can only increase it by 18% a year, but they don't cap it at how long. So maybe people can afford it this year, but what are we gonna look like in year 2, 3, 4, 5? Are people just gonna wholesale start dropping their policies? And we're gonna be communities with uninsured homes. And none of us want that as parish presidents. None of us wants that. That is the disaster waiting to happen to us. So with that, I'd like to introduce your next speaker, President of Lafourche Parish, Archie Chesson.
Thank you, President Lee Shang, and I'm proud to be joined today by our fellow parish presidents from across the region in what I've dubbed in recent days the newest failure by the federal government to protect the American people. This is not just about the affordability of flood insurance for a lot of us. It's about the trickle-down economics to our communities. And if we can't sustain our communities, if we can't live here, if we can't provide people affordable housing opportunities, then how are we supposed to take care of our local gas stations, our local hardware stores, and everything in between there? It's going to be a complete blunder by the federal government as they force us out of our communities. A lot of us have spent decades, especially in South Lafourche, taxing ourselves to build hurricane protection systems that, by the way, just survived the strongest storm to ever hit Louisiana's coast in Hurricane Ida. But yet we're going to tell people that they can no longer afford to live in there after paying those taxes over and over and over again. And as President Lee Shang just mentioned, we're going to see hundreds of people drop their policies. And what are we doing? We're taking a program that is already insolvent and further devolving that process. The more we pull people out of the risk pool, the less coverage there is for everyone else. So I'm going to join the rest of the parish presidents by supporting Senator Cassidy and Senator Kennedy's legislation that hopefully gains traction over the coming days as this program really takes effect on April 1st. But really work with the rest of the congressional delegation, not only here, but across the country as we learned and we can learn to tell them what's going to happen in their very own communities. Because the same things that are happening here are going to happen in Navarro County, Texas, are going to happen in Aurora, Colorado, and in Manhattan where it flooded when Hurricane Ida made its landfall up there. So a delay is always going to be promising. The second part of this is communicating to our residents what's really going to happen and working with them on this process to hopefully help them through it, hopefully help them through as they rebuild from a hurricane, that they stay in our parish and that we can continue to protect them over the years. So it's my distinct pleasure to introduce Parish President Matt Jewell, our friend from St. Charles.
Thank you, Archie. Let me just say that we don't have to be in this position right now. We didn't have to be here. If FEMA would have just held a public process, if they would have been transparent about how they were implementing this process, how they were creating these models, we would not be in this situation that we are today. Like Lafourche Parish, St. Charles Parish has taxed itself and has spent millions of dollars building levee protection, pumping stations, doing drainage projects. Everyone up here can probably tell you that we are safer now than we have ever been since Hurricane Katrina, with the billions upon billions of dollars of investment that the federal government has made. And now the federal government is taking a look at their own investments and saying that they don't matter anymore. That FEMA can come in and charge rates that are going to be just astronomical, that are going to force people to move out of this region. For example, in my parish, the Corps of Engineers recently just said that the Upper Barataria Risk Reduction System, which is a $1.5 billion levee project, has a positive cost-benefit ratio. But on the other hand, FEMA is going to make everybody that levee system would protect forced to move because the rates are going to be so high. It's time that we continue to invest in mitigation efforts and not policies that are going to cripple this economy. Because in the end of the day, what Risk Rating 2.0 will do to our economy here in Southeast Louisiana and on the national scale is going to be far greater in consequence than the smaller number that it would take to invest to mitigate some of these issues. So with that, I will turn over to St. John the Baptist Parish President Jacqueline Hotar.
Good afternoon. And again, I'd like to thank the group of people behind me. The parish presidents have come together, as we always do, to support the residents. I believe our ask is very loud and clear to the federal government that we need to delay implementation, and there needs to be some common sense that enters the room in this conversation. We're telling residents that all of the investments that we've made to mitigate and prevent flooding have really been for nothing, because now we're going to turn around and increase premiums to where they may not be affordable for our residents. That's such a contradictory message that there can only be the conclusion that there is no common sense in the room. So I'm asking FEMA and the federal government to delay implementation of this so that our residents can fully even understand, as we are trying to understand, what is taking place. And it's because of this lack of transparency. So again, I thank you all for being here, and I thank all of my fellow parish presidents for coming together and doing what's right for the people we represent. Thank you.
Great. And now St. Tammany Parish President Mike Cooper, please.
Thank you. I'm particularly concerned about FEMA's implementation of Risk Rating 2.0 this Friday, April 1st. We've been asking for a delay as a group thus far, but to no avail. An inconsistent and unfair increase to our neighbors for insurance, flood insurance, could price them out of their homes. We're very concerned about that. I look forward to continuing to work with our congressional delegation, our state delegation, our local parish presidents that you see here, and other elected officials, and our partners, Greater New Orleans, Inc., and the Coastal for Sustainable Flood Insurance partners that are here today as well. We're going to continue to fight for this delay and to serve our citizens for affordable flood insurance. Thank you. And now I'm going to introduce Jewell Parish President Robbie Miller.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you all for being here. Robbie Miller, Jewell Parish President, and we appreciate GNO Inc. putting this together and all the expertise that's there. And most of our parish presidents have said pretty much everything that needs to be said. But if you've all heard Senator Cassidy and Senator Kennedy talk, whenever they talk to us, they talk about local government being close to the people. We're the ones who actually have to touch the folks, have to deliver the services, have to listen to their concerns. Well, in this case, FEMA didn't do that. There was no local input, didn't talk to us at all, just 2.0s coming in place. There's a lot of expertise at our local level. There's probably more expertise in the room behind me than any meeting that they've ever had to talk about how flood mitigation works, how flood waters come in and out, what's needed and what's not needed. So we're asking and we're supporting our senators, and along with the senators from the other states, to pause this so that we can have that local input, so that the transparency comes out, so that everyone knows what's happening. Our citizens, please talk to your insurance agents. They're supposed to be the ones that FEMA's talked to make sure that you understand how this is going to affect you. Call them and ask. Let's see what happens to you individually. We have examples that I'm sure you're going to get of individual properties that go from $600 to $1,600, from $600 to $6,000. So it's going to affect all of us. It's a major factor in how our economy grows, how our equity is established across our region, especially across the country, for our citizens who can least afford this being affected. We want home ownership to be a big part of our revitalization of our country and our continued growth in our country. This could stop it for a magnitude of people in our country. Thank y'all again for coming, and I'm going to introduce St. Bernard Parish President Guy McGinnis.
I actually got to let you know when you wrap it up. I'm going to get Jawar first.
Okay.
Yep, and Jawar and then Chris. Okay. Great. Excuse me. A little on the fly. It's now my pleasure to introduce, representing the City of New Orleans and Mayor LaToya Cantrell, Jabari Walker.
Thank you, Michael, and thank you, Madam President, for hosting us. In terms of the City of New Orleans, ultimately what we want to see is affordability within this process, and to really ensure that the work that's been done over the years, our residents see an investment in that. And what I mean by that is, last year, 2021, was arguably the wettest year on record for the City of New Orleans. And we did not have any major flooding events. That's in part to the investments that have been made over the years, whether it be HISTers, whether it be through the work that Sewage and Water Board is doing, whether it be through the Gentilly Resiliency District or the Pontilly stormwater management system. So all these investments, that we've had and that our residents have played a part and have played a role in, ultimately we want them to be able to have an environment in which their insurance, their flood insurance, does not make the ability to own a home unaffordable. So ultimately, we're asking FEMA to really allow us to come to the table and provide some data on what the 2.0 means and what it's going to do. So yeah, that's pretty much.
Thank you, Jabbar. And then second to last, representing the parish presidents, representing President Gordy Dove from Terrebonne Parish, we have Chris Polanski. Chris?
Thank you, Mike. On behalf of Terrebonne Parish President Gordon Dove, I just want to express our support for our congressional delegation and their efforts, along with the efforts of everybody standing here behind me. I think Louisiana's environment is as unique as its people. And to have a policy or implement a policy that is the same nationwide, I think really need to look closely at it. And we have in Terrebonne Parish, we've just received in October of last year of 2021 a new set of flood insurance rate maps. And there's a lot of data and a lot of effort and time and expertise that's been put into that since 2008 when we began our appeal process to FEMA regarding the flood maps. So we're so close, and then to have all of that data potentially just pushed aside with the rollout of this policy just really calls to question a lot of those methods. So there again, we really want to stress the importance of having enough people or the right people look at this data and make sure that it's solid. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Mike. And then last but certainly not least, from St. Bernard Parish, President Guy McGinnis.
Thanks, Mike. I want to thank G&O Inc. You guys are doing a great job in putting together this coalition. All of the parish presidents here today. This is so important. Everybody knows what's going on in St. Bernard right now, but this is more important than anything because we're talking about people's lives, people rebuilding in communities. Katrina happened in St. Bernard Parish. People came back. Tornado the other day, people are going to rebuild their lives. It just came from there, right? This will stop that. Arabi is the largest growth in the United States, sixth largest in the United States of America before the census. There's a reason to move there. After the census, we're the fastest growing community, Arabi, in the state of Louisiana. There's a reason to move there. This is a reason to leave. We need to fix that. It's, without finding any better words, it's stupidity. And we need to fix that. And I want to thank Ileana, Caitlin, Michael for your efforts. And we hope that people around the country join us in asking for a delay of this legislation. Thank you.
Thank you, Guy, and all of the parish presidents for your heartfelt and personal sentiments. I'll tell the media, if you would like specific examples of homeowners who are being affected by these rates, then G&O Inc. has them, and many of the parish presidents have examples in their own communities as well. Our final speaker will be the Commissioner of Insurance for the state of Louisiana, Jim Donilon. Commissioner?
Thank you, Michael. And back in 2013, I happened to be the president of the National Association of Insurance Commissioners and was called by then President Obama to the White House to talk about things that he was interested in with regard to the implementation of the Affordable Care Act. I was asked by GNO Inc., which I had been part of their ongoing effort in a coalition, as has been described, to first off reauthorize the National Flood Insurance Program, and then by that time to roll back the unintended consequences that was absolutely ruinous to the economy of Louisiana. Unintended though those consequences were. We have a working coast that is vital to the rest of America. We produce oil. We refine oil. We have some of the largest ports in America. We do seafood that's consumed all across America. We are an integral part of the economy of the United States, and we have to be in this working coast. No, it's not a retirement community. We don't have white sandy beaches that folks want to come live on. It's full of redfish, crawfish, great stuff, and oil, I might add, but it's not where folks are moving to from the rest of the country. But it is so important to the rest of the country. And you might say, how important? We have teachers, we have policemen, we have firemen, we have all forms of support living in those coastal areas, supporting those industries that I just mentioned. And for example, the importance of this program, in 2016, we had 2 areas of our state inundated with record flooding that flooded out hundreds, if not thousands, of homes in the Baton Rouge area and the Lafayette area. And the assistance that came, we call it the Air Force One effect. The president comes down, promises assistance, and generally are supportive of those devastated communities. That assistance from FEMA averaged on a per capita, per head basis, $9,500. Those who had flood insurance in Baton Rouge and Lafayette, only 12% of those residential areas in both parts of the state had flood insurance in place. Their claim, their payment was $95,000. Now, those other folks got help. Through the SBA, they got a low-interest 30-year loan to rebuild their houses where they were. But what that left them with is they had lost the biggest asset in their family's savings account, and that is the equity in their home that no longer existed. For most of those folks, I dare say they were underwater again with their mortgage, having a greater balance on it than the value of that property. So this is vital to our state, to our state's economy. One other example I'll give you, it's not just coastal exposure and rain events like we've experienced. The Grand Ole Opry in downtown Nashville had 6 feet of water several years ago. I use it as I tour the state every year at the beginning of the hurricane season to urge folks to access the National Flood Insurance Program. Our delegation, cross party lines, has always been totally supportive. Actually, when I handed the president the letter, he had been quoted. That's why GNO Inc. asked me to carry the letter to him. He had been quoted as being opposed to that rollback of the Biggert Waters provisions, and ultimately changed his position and signed that legislation, as did many across America, in particular from the Northeast in the aftermath of their experience with Superstorm Sandy. GNO Inc. has put this coalition together. It has been very effective and hopefully will be successful again in our efforts here with stalling the implementation of Risk Rating 2.0. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. So that is the end of our formal remarks. I think we have availability for questions now for any of our parish presidents or Commissioner. Paul?
Yeah, Commissioner Donilon. Yeah. I was up in Baton Rouge in 2016, and you and I talked about recommending that people sign up for the National Flood Insurance Policy. I think at the time you said it's cheap insurance. Do you still recommend people buy flood insurance when their rates, as one of the parish presidents said, will go from $600 to $6,000 And that's just some of the cases.
That's some of the cases. I will emphasize that that's a minority of the cases. It's not the majority of the cases. And the key to whether or not that's going to happen to you is whether or not you are continuing coverage that you had before or that your previous owner had in place on that property. Now that still leaves thousands of properties exposed to these tenfold increases in the actuarial cost of that coverage. That's what we're trying to address and get some relief on. But yes, everywhere I go all around the state, I'm about to start it again in Lake Charles at the outset of hurricane season. Number one message, access the National Flood Insurance Program. It benefits our state more than any other state in America. It is vital to our economy, and only 25% of the residences statewide are insured for flood. And that's driven mostly by this metropolitan area where we've learned from bitter experience. 100-year floods every 5 years have taught us the need for the coverage made available by the NFIP. I carry that message still. You want to follow?
Yeah, with 25% of folks in these areas that could flood or in the state, what is your best estimate as to how that number will be cut if there is no delay in this program?
I really can't begin to estimate that. I wish I could, but I just have no basis for predicting that.
But you agree that people will be dropping off the program?
Oh, no doubt, no doubt. It will be rendered unaffordable for folks if left as is and implemented.
Yeah, Mr. Donilon.
Yeah.
As the insurance expert here, I mean, part of the problem a lot of people have with this is they don't understand how the rates are being set. Looking at it and the algorithm that's being used, do you have an understanding of how the levies are being rated, how all the factors here are being rated, all the things that make Louisiana sort of, you know?
They're federal. I don't regulate them. Most folks think I do. They don't even share that information with us regulators. And we've been advocating for the reauthorization and access to the data. Actually, we got some data about 2 years ago on their loss experience for those states, including my own, who wanted to advocate for or make more private reinsurance available, private flood insurance available for those who want coverage, excess flood above the limits offered by the NFIP, or first dollar coverage from the private sector. We have a very small market of that. Florida has a growing market, and getting to that loss experience was very helpful to them. But the algorithm for risk rating 2.0 is top secret and not shared with me.
Just a couple of follow-ups. Thank you, Commissioner. Just Paul, to your question, we don't have local, but nationally the estimate is that 900,000 people will drop their insurance if this goes forward as it currently is structured, which is about 20% of a program that's already in a bit of a death spiral. And I just want to reemphasize a point that the Commissioner made. While long-term we work on the fix for this program, which I think we will get to because it affects Americans across all 50 states, short-term, it's essential that people maintain their insurance, because that continuity is what's going to keep you in the program. And if you get out of the program, then all bets are off on getting back into the program. And when we're talking about these extreme rates, they do not happen all at once. They will go up potentially 18% a year, but it's not tomorrow. So stay in the program.
Unless you get a new policy.
Unless it's a new policy, which is why it's important to stay in the old one. And if you buy a house, you can assume the policy that goes with that house.
Only if the property owner had flood insurance.
Had flood insurance, yes, sir. You're too smart to be a reporter. You should be fixing flood insurance.
I mean, the point being is,
Yep.
is there's a whole group of people that are buying houses in this market that we have right now that aren't going to be able to afford the flood insurance.
Yeah, well, the key part about this is that one of the big crises in America right now is housing affordability. And one of the key elements of this program is equity. It's actually in the title. It's called Risk Rating 2.0, Equity in Action. But making homes more expensive to carry for people that are barely able to afford it today actually works in the opposite direction, we believe.
Yeah, plan A being a delay, is there a plan B?
Well, plan. What's going to happen if there's not a delay, because we saw this 10 years ago, this is my conjecture, is that once people start getting their renewal notices, the phones in Congress or for all elected officials are going to light up. because this is a pocketbook issue. And again, so important when people were buying their homes and they were getting their mortgage and they were estimating the carrying costs for their homes, they were estimating a current rate of insurance with maybe some reasonable increase. They were not expecting something that was costing $500 a year to go up to $5,000 a year. That would fundamentally change their ability to make it meet. So when that effect happens, you're going to see a popular outcry for this program to get fixed. And so I think that one way or another we will address this.
Yeah, I was going to ask, because you mentioned about the new policies. Are you all, and any of the parish presidents, seeing a huge effect on new housing developments, and how is that going to cut deeply into, and maybe some cases, houses have already been built and they're having trouble selling them, for example?
Well, I'll say in St. Charles Parish, we've already seen people making 180-degree turns on buying lots. We have a couple of developments that are coming to be dedicated to the parish as far as new subdivisions, and in a housing market that was very, very, very hot, for the last couple of years, they have not sold all those lots when in normal cases they would have. So we are seeing people do an about face on these lots, because when you look at on top of the fact that we're seeing the insurances for property insurance go way up after Hurricane Ida, when you tack on this insurance for flood insurance, some people are looking at potentially $10,000 to $11,000 of just insurances that they're going to have to escrow, nearly $1,000 a month of just insurance. It's just not affordable, especially like Michael Heck said, is that if you are going into the home buying process and you are budgeting right now, or you have budgeted a couple of years ago that this is going to be your monthly payment, that is getting totally turned upside down, and you're going to have a couple of hard decisions to make in the coming years as to whether you can afford to stay in that house. And frankly, at that point in time, whether you're going to be able to sell that house, and what's going to be the value of your largest asset. So it's very concerning with what we're seeing right now.
Is the pause, the delay, is that in both the renewals and new policies? And then how can you delay what the new policy says?
Right, and so that's a question actually for Ileana or Caitlin. The question Paul's asking is that in the legislation, would the delay be for?
It says you would stay at your legacy rate before risk rating 2.0 came into effect. Okay.
So for everybody, it would freeze it at the current legacy.
Unless you buy a new house.
Yeah, for a new home, do we know what the legislation says?
Yeah, it's the legacy system. So what you would be rated at prior to the risk rating 2.0.
So it would all be in the legacy system. So as a new,
does that legacy stay with the property, or does it move on with the property owner?
You know what, let us check, 'cause we literally just got the legislation, came out yesterday, so we'll check on you on that, Paul. I just want to make sure that we're giving you good information. Okay, so with that, I know that many of our parish presidents will be happy to take questions now off camera or out of the podium for this. To the media, thank you for this coverage. This will be a long-form story over many months, but we're going to get this fixed for South Louisiana. We're going to get this fixed for the country. And so we appreciate everybody's support. And thank you to all of our parish presidents for being a model of super regionalism and sticking together for the good of all of our citizens. Appreciate you, and Commissioner, thank you as well. Thank you, everybody.